I'm Vasel here, and welcome to the Best of Publishers. Today we're taking a look at Queen Games. Now, Queen is an interesting company. They have, they're a German company, but they've had a fairly strong American presence for quite a while. They've had a couple games win the Spiel des Jahres. They certainly have some great, their boxes are bigger than most other companies' boxes. I remember when I first started playing their games, I thought, their boxes are different. They had the unusual, almost like a size like this. And then they had their big, giant boxes. And nowadays, they print a lot of huge, they call them the giant boxes or the big box versions of their games. They use Kickstarter. They're one of the few established publishers to use Kickstarter, which brings a lot of controversy, whether you can or not. I don't personally care at all. Who cares? And they also have a children's line of games. And I don't think any of their children's games made my top 10. But I do think their children's games are quite good. It's just that their 10 games on their list I'm like, wow, these are amazing games. So certainly check out their kids' games. Each year they come out with, I think, 2 or 3 good, solid children's games. But they also have a lot of other wonderful games. You want to see what they are? Number 10 is Industria. Now, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure Industria never had an English version of it made. I played a pasted-up version of it at some point or other in Korea of English. And this is a game that's basically kind of an engine building game as you are building up these little industry tiles and auctioning for them, and then they let you get other ones and get other ones and other ones. And I love that. I love engine building games, and I always wished this one had come out in English. But even playing it that way was a lot of fun. My number 10 in this Industria. Number 9 is Lost Legends. Lost Legends is a drafting dungeon crawl game. In this game, you have a character, and you are going to be drafting weapons and different things that you need. And then you have almost like a push your luck aspect as monsters come, and you fight these monsters and see how far you can get. You're probably going to die. The game is extremely hard, and that's why it's at 9, probably then at like 2 or 3, because I really love the game. But it is hard. New players are going to get overwhelmed. You have to play it probably a time to kind of get the idea of how the drafting should work. I was hoping for more expansions and stuff, which is, again, maybe why it dropped a little. But I still think it's neat. The artwork was phenomenal. I think it's a really cool idea, and maybe they'll remake it at some point. That is Lost Legends. Number 8 just came out last year, and that's Armageddon. Armageddon is a game I honestly was like, another one of these post-apocalyptic games. But it's a post-apocalyptic auction game, which is like a double whammy for me not to go for. But I really enjoyed this because you have a bunch of these workers, and you use these workers to auction in 3 different auctions each round, or you can save them to then place in your colony. And each colony is going to have different things that they can do, and you're going to slowly build up buildings in your colonies that no one else has, trying to get the most points. This game is phenomenally cool. I really enjoyed it. It also works really well with 3 players. That is Armageddon. Number 7 is one of their Spiel des Jahres winners, and that is Alhambra. Now, Alhambra by itself is kind of I won't say it's a boring game. It's a good game where you are trying to buy things on your turn. You're going to buy different buildings, but there's 4 different currencies you're using. So it's kind of unique. I'm not actually sure what the theming behind that is. But if you buy a building for the exact amount it costs, instead of overpaying for it at all, then you get to buy another one or take another action. So you're buying these tiles, and you're putting them in your thing almost a la Carcassonne as you're building this up. And that's all really cool. It's a solid game, but not fantastic. But then, add some expansions. And there definitely is expansions. There is at least 20 mini modules. And I know this because if you buy Alhambra, the big box version, you get them all in it. And I've played with them all, and some of them are okay, but a lot of them are amazing. And this gives the game so much variety and so much fun. When those are added in, love the game Alhambra. Number 6 is Lancaster. Now, Lancaster is another worker placement game, but it's kind of a mean worker placement game. In this game, you have knights, and you're placing them in different spots, but someone can take a knight and put it there if it's bigger than your knight, a more powerful knight. And I mean like physically bigger, because the level 2 knights are blocks that are bigger than the level 1s, and the level 3s are bigger than that, and the level 4s. That's a cool concept. It's neat. It's a visual effect. And so you have to sit there and go, am I going to promote knights? Or am I going to go, get knights out of as many different places as possible? Am I going to help in the war against France? There's some history flowing through the game, and the different tiles and laws and things that are going to show up are going to change it. But it's a really solid, wonderful game, Lancaster. And number 5 is Treasure Hunter. As you can tell, I like drafting games, and this is a game from Richard Garfield, which I really thought should have been nominated for the Spiel des Jahres. It is a solid easy game to get into, as you are going to be just drafting cards each turn, and then you'll be revealing them and hunting treasure. Maybe whoever has the most cards of different colors will go to different spots. You'll be fighting off goblins. It's pretty simple. It's one of those times you get the cards, you'll be like, I want them all. You can't have them all. You take one, pass it around. It has an expansion, I think it's about goblins, which is good. But even if you don't get that, the base game itself is a lot of fun. You have a lot of choices to make, trying to outthink the other players as you draft these. So it's a bit of bluffing and drafting put together. Really solid game. Number 4 is a new game that just came out last year, and that is Glux. Now, Glux is an abstract strategy game in which you have these tiles that have 1 and 6 on a 1 on one side, a 6 on the other, a 2 and a 5, and a 3 and a 4. You'll be drawing these tiles from a bag and placing them that distance from a tile that's already on the board. So if I have a tile that's 5 on the board, I can place a tile exactly 5 spaces away from it. You are trying to place these tiles to control different areas on the board, and you're trying to place them to land on top of other people's tiles to shut them down. And it's really kind of an interesting thing because the big tiles let you go farther, but they also hamper your movement. Sometimes you want to go smaller to control an area on the board. It scales well, looks pretty, totally abstract, but a great game, Glux. Number 3 is Thebes. I will also accept Thebes the card game, both made by Queen. They're pretty much the same thing. Thebes the card game is one of the few times where the card game is almost a card game version of the board game exactly. Play one or the other. If push comes to shove, I'd probably play the Thebes just because I like the bigger box feel of it. But in Thebes, you're archaeologists, and you're going around and you're searching for wonderful treasures all over the place. And you do so by going to different dig sites and digging there, and you determine how much time you want to spend there, because the more time you spend, the fewer actions you'll get over the course of the game, but the better your chances of finding something. And how do you find something? A bag full of tiles. You reach into it, pull them out, 5 tiles, oh, I got 2 treasures, all right. And then you throw the 3 blank tiles back in. So the next person to come to that site is going to have a harder time finding treasure than you do. There's definitely a lot of luck to the game, but there's also building up, trying to get really good at searching in different areas. A wonderful game, Thebes. Number 2 is
Escape.
Escape is a 10-minute game, literally 10 minutes, in which players are cooperatively trying to escape out of a temple. They're going to all be rolling dice like crazy at the same time, moving around using these dice, trying to go and find different things, and eventually get out of the temple, and sometimes getting stuck, and other players have to come and rescue them. Meanwhile, there's a soundtrack in the background with jungle music and noises, and eventually, you hear a gong, you got to get back to the starting room, and then you got to get out before the final gong rings. It's tense. My kids won't even play at halftime because they're so worried about the noise soundtrack, but I really do enjoy this game a lot. It also has a pile of expansions, and you wouldn't ever want to play with all of them at the same time, but add 1 or 2 in, add traps or whatever, makes the game really fun. And my favorite game from Queen Games was an easy choice for me, and that is Wallenstein, or Shogun. I put them here because they are essentially the exact same game, mostly with different maps and some other very minor differences. In these games, and I like Wallenstein better, which is on a map of Germany, you are basically playing kind of a Risk-style game. You're going to have troops moving around the board and controlling areas, but each turn you have to decide what to do in each of your territories. Are you going to tax that territory? Are you going to harvest that territory? Are you going to move troops from that territory to another one? Are you going to attack a territory? There's a lot of options, and you have to sit there and go, which territories am I going to do what with this turn? Am I going to build buildings worth victory points? Am I going to attack? Do I need to defend this area? A lot of great choices. Combat itself is unique. It uses the cube tower, where there's a tower, and you throw your troops and your opponent's troops into it, and whatever troops come out the bottom, they eliminate each other, and whatever one more comes out wins. But those other troops stay in the tower for future battles. A great concept, a lot of fun. This is one of the best games ever designed. That is Shogun or Wallenstein. So those are my favorite Queen games. Like I said, they make a lot of other good games, especially a lot of good children's games that I would recommend. Tell me in the comments what your favorite Queen games are, and tell me what I've missed. I know a lot of people are probably going to talk about one of their Spiel des Jahres winners that I did not mention, Kingdom Builder, which has done extremely well for them. Not as big of a fan of it as other people are, but certainly one that I'm sure people will love. Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been Best of Queen Games.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.